Sometimes you just gotta dance. Find out why on today's episode of the Freedom Club Podcast.
Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we discover the fight for freedom, fulfillment, passion, and purpose. Your host is Kurt Mercadante, Gallup certified strengths coach, an agency founder who is dedicated to coaching individuals seeking to level up their life and their businesses. The Freedom Club is about unlocking your talents, turning them into strengths, and crushing your objectives. You can learn more at kurtmercadante.com. Welcome to the Freedom Club.
And welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Kurt Mercadante, and I am damn happy you're here. Hope you're doing well this week. Listen, do not be shy to tell your friends, family, colleagues about us. Anyone who you think would benefit from our message of freedom and fulfillment. And also don't be shy about wherever you're listening to this podcast, stopping by and giving us a positive rating and review. That certainly helps us reach more people across the globe with our mission. And today's podcast, I had a fun one. I interview Diana Nguyen. She's from Melbourne, Australia. She's a stand-up comedian. She's known as Dancing Diana on LinkedIn. And she also is doing some interesting work with the Melbourne Playback Theatre. So without further ado, here is my fun interview with Diana Nguyen. Okay, so Diana, you have your own stand-up comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
But you also do a really cool thing, which I was unaware of, which is called, and I'm going to probably get it wrong, the Melbourne Playback Theatre, which is fascinating. And I didn't realize it was kind of a global phenomenon and it's around. But you go into corporations, it's about storytelling. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so playback is a theatre form, which is where people tell their stories and actors on the side will listen to the story and then they'll play it back instantaneously. How do you say that? I can't say it. Immediately, instantaneously.
Instantaneously.
That's not working. That's it. Thank you. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. So the idea is, it's not pre-rehearsed. It's about active listening and from the actors and just letting go. The actors just performing the story using theatre and bringing the magic of theatre into the workplace or into a performance space. Yeah.
And so what's the outcome? And like when you walk away, if I'm my corporate team, you come in and you do this with us, what's the outcome that we get from that?
So the outcome is it's kind of like disrupting that 9 to 5 space of corporate. We got reports, you got meetings, you got emails. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. Because I go to the theatre a lot. I spend 90% of my money going watching the theatre. Oh, no. And I realised it's the only time now in the world where you're expected to turn off your phone and have it in your bag, away from your hands. Like when you go watch the theatre, you never turn on your phone, start scrolling while a performance is on. I truly believe that's the space where you allow time out and allow to watch something, let it be in awe of you, be a critic of it, and just let that magic happen. And then you come out with experience that you hated or you loved it. And I think that's the magic of theatre or comedy or art. You either love it or hate it. It gives you a perspective.
Yeah, and
so that's what we do with.
That's very cool. And it's almost a bit of freedom too, right? It's because sometimes our smartphones can become prisons where we just can't look away. And I feel that way when I'm reading a book too. You just kind of get lost in it. But like you said, even a movie or at the theater, you just kind of let yourself go, right?
Mm-hmm. And then when the curtains come down, you're like back on your phone. So.
Right away. And you got the jitters, right?
Because the world can't handle you not being there.
Yeah.
And that's my self-reflection of myself too. Yeah. But yeah, that's what we do at Melbourne Playback. We do corporates, we do government, we do education. And we also, so there's another thing about me. I worked with migrant refugees who just come to Australia.
Oh, wow.
So I worked in the sector for 9 years. So we had a lot of Afghan, Sudanese, Burmese kids coming from war-torn countries, and my job was to provide programs to help them, and I don't like using the word, but it's the word assimilate, and help them learn skills and help them to be integrated in the community. Because, I grew up in the 90s, and there was a drug epidemic when I was growing up with the Vietnamese community. So I felt like, how can we prevent this from happening, or a jarring of generations? So I introduced Playback to help with their storytelling, and it's just so wonderful. Even though you've never experienced the war, you've never had to escape, hide, you still feel that story. You still understand the importance of freedom, pretty much, and shelter and love of a parent who would sacrifice everything for you. And whether it be, in a Western home where a parent works really hard, or a parent who sneaks you into a boat, it's the same thing. And that's what theatre does. It allows you to go, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So the name of my podcast is the Freedom Club Podcast.
Yes.
And so one question I always ask is, what does the word, and you just used the word freedom, what does the word freedom mean to you?
Freedom is breath. Be able to breathe and have all your cells in your body flow. There's a scene in Twilight. I think it's the second last movie where she becomes a vampire, and there's this moment where all her blood is flowing, and it's that scene where vessels and all these things are going. I really do see freedom is when there's a burst. Yeah. If I had to use that as a metaphor, it's a burst of a human person. Freedom in everything that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah. And it's always interesting hearing people's individual definitions. There's common threads through all the definitions, but they're all unique in their own way. And so there's no right or wrong. And, some people will immediately think about political freedom or social freedom or personal freedom. And so I love hearing the definitions, or people's thoughts on what that word means.
Yeah.
So you have a stand-up show, comedy show.
Yeah.
And, to me, that is one of the ultimate forms of overcoming fear, getting up on a stage, because comedy is so subjective, right? They're even more than acting, I would say, because it's your own material. There's certain people here in the US. There was a show in the 90s, and it's just like, my wife and I compare everything in our lives to it, but the name of the show was Seinfeld. And so it was, we almost judge sometimes, we'll meet people for the first time and they'll be like, oh, sorry, I'm not a Seinfeld person. And we're like, I don't know if we can be friends with you, but it's so subjective, there's some people who are like, I just don't get it. And so if you go into an audience of 50 or 100 people, it's like, wow, there may only be 2 people who have the same sense of humor as me. So to me, it's man, you talk about overcoming fear. We've talked about, you talk about building walls and building that thick skin. What, applying those lessons to just about anything, overcoming fear, the fear of putting yourself out there. I guess from your life in comedy, what are some lessons that you could give to someone who is fearful of putting themselves out there, whether it's creating content on social media, whether it's going into a job interview, whether, what's some advice you would give them?
Well, I'll give you the origin of why I got into comedy. I trained as an actor, but I'm a funny actor as well. But I wasn't getting any roles here in Australia as an actor because it's diversity is not the number one thing. And Asian actors, what can they play? A nurse, doctor, refugee, prostitute. And after doing that for so long, I just went, when can I have the space to tell my stories without having to be pulled off stage? Like, when is my chance to do that? Stand up. And that's 50 minutes of uncensored me, you know, and we were talking about it before. Like, you have to invest, you have to lose money to gain the experience. So that was me. I put out money. I did a festival show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival because I wanted to be able to tell my story. I wanted people in the audience to see their stories being told too. Because comedy, it's male-driven and white. So there was a lack of stories of Asian Australian stories, and also women. And you know, being a woman already, whether you're white or colour, is rare in itself. So I wanted to take control of the position that I was in, instead of letting someone tell me this is how it should be. Yeah. So I just went, fuck it. I'm just going to do it. And it was the scariest thing I ever did. And this was in 2016. I had highs for 3 weeks when I was doing stand-up. Yeah, it was a out-of-body experience. So I guess my tip is, if you believe in your story, then someone has to tell it. And it's not someone else, it's you. Yeah.
That's awesome. By the way, the only roles I ever get offered are as refugee and prostitute. So
from Italy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. A male prostitute. Yeah.
Hey, I don't know how much you'll be getting paid for a prostitute.
I have to pay them to let me act in their shows.
That's it. Well, you know the movie the Netflix TV show Marco Polo?
Yeah.
Yes. So I was given an audition for that. So they shot it in Malaysia. It was a Netflix special. So I was asked to audition, and on the description it said Asian actor, female, prostitute, okay with half naked scenes. And for some reason, if I was 20, 23, 25 years old back in my day, I would have gone, yes, I auditioned it. But this was when I was probably late in my 20s, and then something activated my brain. I was like, I don't want to be the part of that narrative anymore. Yeah, so I said to my agent, I'm not auditioning for it.
Yeah.
They weren't happy. But I just decided, no, I don't want to be part of that narrative.
And then you're just, you're not only pigeonholing yourself, you're contributing to pigeonholing other actors as well.
That's it.
So on LinkedIn, it's in your headline, I think it might be your hashtag, Dancing Diana.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Oh, that's another story itself. I came back from Europe. I'd gained some weight and I couldn't afford gym. And I went to a dance gym. So I love Beyonce. I love pop music. So I decided I'm going to film myself working out. So I put it on my Facebook, put it on my Instagram, and it, no one really cared about it. And by this time I was told to go to LinkedIn and just try it, just talk. And I was like, but it's for corporates. What are you talking about? I'm a creative. I should be on YouTube.
Right.
And so then one day my mum's house flooded with pink detergent. And I was like, all right, what can I do with this? Because my brain does that creatively. It's like, what can I do with this pink? It flooded the whole house. And I said, I'll dance to It's Raining Men, and I'll upload it onto LinkedIn.
Wow.
And then that's how that happened. And I'm being surprised. So I've had some haters. They're like, well, what's this being on the platform? But I'm like, but people are watching it.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
How do I stop? How can I say, hey, guys, actually, no. It's like people are watching it. So it's like going against ratings. It's like, you're the top number 1 Game of Thrones, and you decide, you know what? No, we're not killing anyone anymore.
Yeah. Right.
So we'll just go against that. So I just been dancing because it's a great workout for me. I love music, and people seem to love it. I'm giving what people want. That's it.
Well, Diana, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for
It's been a
having me.
pleasure. All right, cool.